For years, they told me I didn't belong in their world. Tonight, I quietly bought the entire thing. They said I couldn't even afford to be here. I heard the words before the elevator doors even opened. My brother's voice, sharp, amused, dripping with the kind of arrogance only someone who's never been told no can master, floated through the marble lobby like a knife edge. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. I just tightened my grip on the strap of my gray leather bag and walked toward the glass column, the one that would take me to the top floor to his ceremony, his victory, his carefully staged coronation. And my reckoning. The elevator climbed in silence, a soft hum beneath my feet. Through the transparent walls, the city stretched out below me, a map of sheer ambition. Each passing floor mirrored a different version of me, flickering reflections in the glass, the scholar, the failure, the invisible daughter. I could still hear Ryan's voice in my head from the last family dinner. "Clara's not really in business," he'd said, cutting into his apple pie like a judge delivering a sentence. "She's playing pretend with her little startup thing." My mother laughed politely. My father had stayed silent. I smiled like I was in on the joke. I wasn't. The elevator chimed softly at the 39th floor. 2 men in tailored navy suits stepped in. Their expensive colognes filled the small space. They didn't look at me. To them, I was just another assistant, another face from some mid-tier department. I adjusted my simple blazer, the one from a department store clearance rack, and met my own gaze in the mirrored panel. The look was not defeated. It was calm, focused, patient. My phone vibrated in my bag. A text from Ryan. "Remember what we talked about? Stay in the back. Don't make this awkward." I read it twice before tucking the phone away. He truly believed I'd come just to watch, to clap politely while he accepted his title, Senior Vice President of Operations for Redwood Technologies. The Golden Boy had finally done it. The family would beam. The board would applaud. I'd be another background character in his success story. But he didn't know what I knew. The elevator opened to the top floor. The moment the doors slid apart, the heavy scent of rich cocoa and the sheen of concentrated power hit me. The space gleamed with glass and brushed steel. Every surface was designed to reflect wealth. Redwood's logo glowed across the far wall, sharp, modern, merciless. Ryan stood near the stage, surrounded by colleagues. His laugh carried easily over the low murmur of conversation. He wore a charcoal suit. His tie was a perfect Windsor knot. To anyone else, he looked like the company's future. To me, he looked like a man who had built his life on borrowed confidence. I slipped past the catering table, taking a glass of water to steady my hands. From across the room, I caught my profile in one of the massive window panes. Calm, composed, invisible, exactly how I needed to be for now. Ryan spotted me. His practiced smile faltered for just a second before he masked it. He crossed the room, quickly stopping just close enough for his words to sting but not travel. "What are you doing up here?" His voice was low and clipped. "I told you to stay in the back." "I'm just here to support you," I said quietly. He glanced at my clearance rack blazer, at my worn handbag, then back at the gleaming crowd around him. "Just try to look professional, okay? This isn't a charity event. Don't talk to Miranda. Don't talk to the board. Please, just stay invisible." "Of course," I smiled. "That's what I'm best at." He didn't catch the tone. He never did. Ryan turned away, already caught up in a new conversation. I watched him work the room with that rehearsed charm, the same one that had fooled professors, partners, and our parents for years. Every nod, every laugh, every gesture was perfectly calculated. He thrived on being seen. I had spent my life mastering the opposite. The lights dimmed slightly as the ceremony began. The CEO, Miranda Chen, took the stage, commanding attention without even raising her voice. I'd met her twice before, but not as Ryan's sister. She knew me as something entirely different. Tonight, the truth would surface. "Good evening, everyone," Miranda began. "We're gathered here to celebrate growth, innovation, and the leaders who will carry Redwood Technologies into its next chapter." Ryan straightened his tie. His smile polished, rehearsed. His parents. Our parents sat in the front row, faces glowing with pride. My mother's hand rested on my father's arm, her heavy gold cuff catching the light. They looked at Ryan the way they never looked at me, as though he'd made all their sacrifices worthwhile. I stood at the back, half hidden behind a pillar, heart steady. I'd waited for this moment for 2 years. Before we announce our new senior vice president, Miranda continued, I have an important message to share. A ripple moved through the audience. Ryan's expression tightened slightly. He wasn't good at surprises. For the past year, Miranda said Redwood Technologies has been undergoing quiet but significant changes in ownership. A series of private investments and acquisitions have resulted in a new controlling shareholder. The murmurs grew. Ryan looked confused. His eyes flicked toward the board, then to Miranda, searching for reassurance. Tonight, Miranda said, her tone unwavering, I'd like to take a moment to introduce that person to you. The investor who believed in Redwood's future when few others did. The room stilled. The air shifted. She's here with us tonight. For a heartbeat, you could hear nothing but the hum of the projector. Then Miranda smiled. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our primary investor, Ms. Clara Hayes. My glass didn't even tremble as I set it down. Every head turned. The spotlight swept across the room and landed on me. Ryan's face was drained of color. My mother gasped. My father blinked as if trying to make sense of the sound of my name echoing through the hall. I took one calm breath. Then I walked forward. Each step felt deliberate, weighted with the years I'd spent being dismissed. The whispers rose, her really the sister, until they began to fade beneath the pounding in Ryan's ears. He tried to smile, but it faltered halfway. When I reached the stage, Miranda extended her hand. Welcome home, Ms. Hayes. I returned the gesture. Thank you, Miranda. Ryan's voice broke the silence, raw and desperate. What is this? Some kind of joke? Miranda's expression didn't change. No joke. Ms. Hayes holds 51% of Redwood Technologies. Effective immediately, she is the majority shareholder. The audience erupted in shock. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father leaned forward in disbelief. Ryan just stood there frozen. His carefully built world was cracking around him. I looked at him not with anger, not even with triumph, but with something colder. Clarity. He had spent years telling me I didn't belong in his world. And tonight, I bought it. The applause started slowly, uncertainly, then built as the realization sank in. I felt none of it, only a strange, steady calm. Miranda turned to me. Would you like to say a few words? I took the microphone. My voice was even. Only this, I said. Sometimes the people you overlook are the ones building the foundation beneath your success. It's easy to mistake silence for weakness, but silence is often a strategy. And with that, I stepped back from the podium, letting the room drown in the truth. The ceremony that was meant to crown my brother had just rewritten the story of us both. The applause still echoed in my ears as I ducked into a vacant executive lounge near the main hall. For a second, the world went silent. No whispers, no cameras, no pitying glances. Just my heartbeat steady and deliberate. I leaned against the cool window surface, inhaling deeply. After years of being told to stay small, stay quiet, stay out of the way, I had finally stepped into the storm's center. When I turned, Ryan was already coming toward me. His movements were urgent. His face was pale. The easy charm he wore like armor was now stripped away. He stopped just inches from me. His voice trembled with controlled fury. What the hell was that, Clara? I met his eyes. Calm. The truth. He blinked. You embarrassed me in front of the entire company, our parents, the board, everyone. Yu-He glanced towards the lounge door. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. You don't belong here. You don't even understand how this world works. I understand it perfectly, I said, straightening. That's why I own it. The words hit him harder than I expected. His mouth opened then closed again. He had nothing left to say that wouldn't sound small. I walked past him toward the panoramic windows overlooking the city. The skyline glittered distant and cold. You told me to stay in the back, remember I said without turning. I just decided the view was better from the front. He let out a sharp, humorless laugh. This isn't a game, Clara. Do you have any idea what you've done? You've made enemies you can't even see yet. I turned to face him fully. I've had enemies my whole life. They just used to have my last name. The tension hung thick-heavy with all the unspoken things between us. Childhood comparisons, dinner table jokes, years of invisible wounds. Ryan broke first. He ran a hand through his hair. You're not built for this. You think owning some shares makes you powerful. You don't have the instincts. You don't have the stomach for what it takes. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. And what does it take? Ryan, lying, stealing credit, manipulating people. You're right. I don't have the stomach for that. He looked away. His jaw tightened. The sound of approaching heels broke the silence. Miranda Chen appeared. Her expression was unreadable, but her presence was commanding. Is everything all right here? She asked, glancing between us. Ryan straightened immediately, smoothing his tie. His smile reappeared like a reflex. Of course, Miranda. Just a little family misunderstanding. Miranda's gaze flicked to me. I imagine you'll have quite a few of those before this settles. Then to me alone, she added, Your office is ready. Ms. Hayes. When you're ready. Thank you, I said. When she left, Ryan exhaled through his teeth. You think this is over? It's just starting. Good, I said softly. I like beginnings. He turned on his heel and stormed out. The door slammed behind him. I stood there a long time watching the city lights shimmer across the massive windows. The adrenaline began to fade. It left something heavier in its place. Not regret, never that, but the awareness that everything from here would be harder, lonelier, more dangerous. But I'd been underestimated before. It was my greatest advantage. Downstairs, I found the lobby nearly empty. The banners celebrating Redwood's new era of leadership fluttered faintly in the air conditioning. Funny no one had known how literal those words were when they printed them. My parents were waiting by the exit. My mother's posture was stiff. Her face was a mask of forced composure. My father's hands were in his pockets. His eyes were unreadable. Clara, my mother said finally, what did you just do? What I had to do, I replied. This was Ryan's night, she hissed. You humiliated him in front of everyone. In front of us. I met her glare with calm steadiness. He's been humiliating me for years, Mom. You just never noticed because he smiled when he did it. My father stepped forward. That's enough. We're family. You don't tear each other down in public. I almost laughed. That's rich coming from the man who told everyone at Thanksgiving that I wasn't cut out for the real world. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I didn't tear anyone down, I continued. I just showed the truth. What people choose to do with it isn't my concern anymore. My mother's voice softened the way it always did when she tried to regain control. We're worried about you, that's all. You're not thinking clearly. These people, this world, it's not kind. Neither were you, I said quietly. Then I stepped past them, out into the crisp night air. The city pulsed around me, bright and different, alive. A car honked somewhere in the distance. A group of employees spilled from a nearby bar. I hailed a cab. Owning a company meant inheriting its secrets and its ghosts. I climbed inside. The driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Big night, something like that, I said. Celebration or trouble? He asked. Both, I replied, leaning back as the city blurred past the window. Outside, skyscrapers glittered like watchful eyes. Inside, my mirror image stared back at me, older, sharper, calmer. The girl who used to flinch when her brother laughed at her was gone. Now there was only the woman who had taken everything he thought he owned. The city rolled on endless and electric. The hum of its heartbeat synced with mine. Somewhere high above in the glass tower that bears the Redwood Technologies logo, Ryan was probably pacing his office. Let him plot. He still didn't understand that the game he'd been playing all his life had changed tonight. It wasn't about charm or luck anymore. It was about vision calculation and control. And I'd been learning those rules in silence for far longer than he could imagine. It started on a night I almost quit. 2 years ago, my bank account balance hovered just above zero. My rent check sat unsigned on the counter. My brother's words echoed in my head. "You're wasting your degree on fantasies." I'd been freelancing as a business consultant, basically fixing the messes made by men who thought they were geniuses. But that night, staring at the glow of my laptop in a dark apartment that smelled faintly of dust and old takeout menus, I decided I was done. I was done letting people like Ryan define what success looked like. The next morning, I registered my company, Hayes Analytics Group. In reality, it was just me, a borrowed desk, and a second-hand computer I'd paid for with the last of my savings. I didn't have investors. I didn't have connections. I just had a quiet obsession with proving everyone wrong. The first clients came slowly. Small tech firms run by exhausted founders trying to stay afloat. They couldn't pay much, but they trusted me because I didn't talk like a consultant. I talked like someone who had everything to lose. I built predictive models, streamlined budgets, and showed them where their hidden value was buried under chaos. For the first time, I felt power in something other than approval. 6 months in one of those startups, a cybersecurity firm offered me stock instead of cash. It turned out to be an opportunity in disguise. That stock became my first real asset. I started watching markets intensely, endlessly, waiting for an opening. The pattern became clear. Companies like Redwood Technologies were bloated, arrogant, and blind to disruption. They were too busy celebrating themselves to see who was quietly circling below. One night, while reviewing Redwood's quarterly filings, I noticed something small but strange. A shell acquisition in Nevada, with undervalued patents tied to medical AI. Buried in the details was a name I recognized a venture group Ryan's department had recommended. He was feeding these deals up the chain, but the truth was uglier. He was recycling weak companies into the Redwood ecosystem, hiding liabilities in new packaging. That was the night the plan crystallized. If Ryan could build his career on manipulation, I would build mine on precision. I started buying. Not directly, never directly, but through holding entities and limited partnerships. Tiny percentages, at first fractions of Redwood's subsidiaries. I stayed under the radar. I studied every division like a surgeon preparing for an operation. Every penny I made went into acquisition. Every client project I took on was fuel for something bigger. By the end of the first year, Hayes Analytics wasn't just consulting. It was quietly building an empire of data and ownership. During those months, I barely slept. My apartment became a maze of printouts and financial reports. Each folder, labeled in neat handwriting, was a thread that led closer to the heart of the company my brother worshipped. Sometimes I'd imagine his face if he knew. The idea wasn't revenge yet. It was survival. Revenge came later when the silence from my parents grew louder than any insult could. There was one night I'll never forget. A storm had hit the city. Rain hammered against the window surface while I sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by papers. My power had gone out. I worked by candlelight. I remember whispering, "You're going to regret underestimating me to no one but the dark." 2 weeks later, I met Miranda Chen for the first time. She'd reached out through a mutual contact after hearing about my firm's efficiency models. We met in a quiet cafe near Wall Street. She listened more than she spoke. Her eyes were sharp and calculating. When I presented my findings on inefficiencies, she smiled slightly. "You've been watching Redwood," she said. I froze. "Professionally speaking, yes." "Don't worry," she said. "So have I." That was the beginning of our alliance. Miranda wasn't naive. She knew exactly what I was building. She understood that corporations like Redwood needed shaking from the inside. Over the next 6 months, she helped me navigate the complexities of silent partnerships. The difference between me and Ryan was simple. He wanted to rule the game. I wanted to change the board. By year 2, I controlled nearly 51% of Redwood's dispersed equity holdings. It was clean, legal, and invisible. I still remember the moment I realized it was enough. It was a Tuesday morning in December. The sky outside my office window was the color of steel. My inbox pinged with confirmation from my broker transaction complete. Position majority secured. I sat there for a long time staring at that one sentence. No champagne, no music, just the steady thud of my pulse. That same afternoon, Ryan called. He wanted advice. "Hey, you've been following the markets, right?" he said casually. "Any idea what's happening with Redwood's stock? Someone's been buying up shares. Feels weird." I kept my tone neutral. "Could be institutional interest." "Yeah," he said. "Guess we're doing something right." I smiled into the phone. "Guess you are." When the call ended, I stared out the window again. Snow was starting to fall. That's when I knew. The next time we stood in the same room, everything would be different. From that moment on, every decision I made had a single goal: not to destroy Ryan, but to unmask him. To show the world that success without integrity is just borrowed time. And when I heard Ryan's voice that night, "She can't even afford to be here," I almost laughed. I'd outgrown it. The morning sun was a cold, indifferent disk hanging over the city. I was in my new office, the CEO's old office on the top floor of Redwood Tower. It was vast and minimalist. Ryan's desk, I knew, was 3 floors down. I hadn't slept. I'd spent the night reviewing Miranda's transition briefs. Now I stood by the window. The city map was spread out below me like a complex problem I was tasked to solve. The adrenaline from last night was replaced by a precise surgical focus. The first conflict came with the knock on the door. "Ms. Hayes, the board chair, Mr. Harrison is insisting on an unscheduled meeting." Insisting, I asked the administrative assistant. She looked slightly terrified. "He says the nature of your acquisition was highly irregular. A vote of no confidence is already being drafted." I felt no flicker of anxiety. Irregular was exactly what I was aiming for. "Tell Mr. Harrison I'm happy to meet with him," I said, walking toward the desk. "In 1 hour, in the smaller conference room on the 10th floor. And please ensure Ryan Hayes is in attendance." The assistant blinked. "The 10th floor." "But the 10th floor is—" "The Historical Assets Management Division," I finished for her. "Yes. I want Mr. Harrison and my brother to be acutely aware of which parts of this company are about to be restructured. That is all." I spent 20 minutes preparing. My hands flew across the keyboard, pulling audit flags and legal precedents. This intense focus grounded me. The tension in the air was a bitter metallic taste I hadn't known I missed. The meeting with Miranda was thankfully less dramatic, though no less intense. She arrived exactly at 9:00 a.m. "You've caused quite a storm, Clara," she said, setting a folder down on the meeting table. "Storms clear the air," I replied. "Did Harrison have a bad night, the worst?" Miranda confirmed, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "He's Ryan's key protector on the board. A no-confidence vote is a certainty. They'll try to argue that the private acquisitions violated a minor clause in the founder agreement, a clause they assumed no one would ever find or bother with. The one about family financing, I opened a tablet and pulled up the relevant section. I found it. It's what allowed me to operate outside the usual shareholder oversight." Miranda looked impressed. I thought I was the only one who remembered that detail. Ryan was too busy looking at the spotlight to notice the fine print, I said. "So the first battle is structural. What's the second?" Miranda leaned back. "The staff. Redwood is loyal to the old guard. Your first move needs to be surgical. You need a victory that's visible, logical, and cut straight to Ryan's mismanagement." I tapped the screen of the tablet. "The medical AI patents in Nevada. The ones Ryan's team undervalued and obscured. I want them transferred immediately back to Redwood's core R&D. The estimated value increase will silence Harrison for a week." A strong opening move, Miranda agreed. "But you need more than just financial wins. You need an ally in the executive suite." "No," I said. "I need a clean slate." Ryan built a structure of incompetence around himself. "I'll start by disbanding his entire senior VP team effective immediately. They failed their due diligence." Miranda paused. "That's not surgical, Clara. That's a scorched earth policy. Scorched earth is necessary when the rot runs deep," I said, standing up. I checked my watch. Time for Mr. Harrison. Ryan wanted me to stay in the back. Now he's going to find out what it's like to be pushed out entirely. I gathered my documents, feeling the weight of the new responsibility. The invisible daughter was gone. Only the owner remained ready for the fights that were just beginning. The meeting with Mr. Harrison was scheduled for the 10th floor conference room, a dated windowless space that smelled of stale heating and was primarily used for inventory review. The contrast between this room and the gleaming executive floor was intentional. I wanted Mr. Harrison and Ryan to feel the literal weight of the company's past and the forgotten divisions. I arrived precisely on time. Ryan was already there, pacing the perimeter of the room like a caged animal. Mr. Harrison, the board chair and architect of Ryan's protection, sat at the head of the long table. His face was a mask of controlled fury. His voice was dry and authoritative, betraying a sense of entitlement I had spent my life dismantling. Ms. Hayes Harrison began. "This relocation is unprofessional and frankly an insult to the board. We need to discuss the highly irregular nature of your acquisition immediately." I took a seat opposite him, setting my briefcase down without hurry. "We are discussing the acquisition, Mr. Harrison, but we are doing it here on the 10th floor where your department's mismanagement is most acutely felt." Ryan stopped pacing. His voice was taut with resentment. "Don't talk about my department like that." "The facts speak for themselves, Ryan," I said, turning my attention back to Harrison. "You claim the acquisition was irregular. I claim it was precise and entirely legal, operating within a founder agreement loophole that your legal team, the team you approved, overlooked for 2 years. Now about the no-confidence vote you're drafting." Harrison leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. His tone remained rigidly formal, masking the desperation of a cornered man. "We believe you have violated a fiduciary duty by operating under shell entities to hide your majority position from existing management. We will vote to dissolve the deal and reclaim control." I smiled faintly. "You're welcome to try. But first let's discuss what that will cost you." I opened my briefcase, pulling out a sheaf of papers. "I have here a detailed report on the undervalued medical AI patents from the Nevada shell acquisition, the one Ryan's team recommended." Ryan's face paled. He recognized the pattern. "This acquisition was reported by Ryan as having a potential return of 5%. I continued addressing Harrison. "My analysis shows that with proper R&D funding and transfer back to the core company, the patents are worth $700 million more than his projection." Harrison's jaw tightened. A $700 million discrepancy was a breach of duty they couldn't ignore. "Furthermore," I said, looking directly at Ryan, "this deal was pushed through to cover up liabilities in another unrelated account, the Zenith account. This suggests not incompetence, but intentional deception to manipulate shared value." Ryan looked ready to erupt, but Harrison silenced him with a harsh glance. The dynamic had shifted. Harrison wasn't protecting Ryan anymore. He was protecting his own position on the board. "You're mistaken about the Zenith account," Harrison said, but his conviction wavered. "I'm not," I replied, pushing the document across the table. "And every document here has already been sent to an independent auditor this morning pending your next move. If you proceed with the no-confidence vote, the auditor proceeds with an investigation into the Zenith account and the potential for insider trading." Harrison stared at the document, his face losing its color. He hadn't expected the silent daughter to come armed with such specific artillery. "You came here to negotiate, not threaten," he accused. "I came here to lead," I corrected. "The choice is yours. A quiet transfer of power and an immediate $700 million asset injection, or a very public lawsuit that implicates everyone who signed off on Ryan's reports, including you, Mr. Harrison." The room went silent. Ryan was slumped in his chair, defeated by the precision of the attack. Harrison pushed himself slowly away from the table. "This isn't over, Ms. Hayes." "I know," I said calmly. "It's just beginning. You have until the end of the day to withdraw your vote and secure the patent transfers. Tell the rest of the board the era of unseen mismanagement is over." When he and Ryan finally left, the room felt lighter. I stood there inhaling the stale air. The first wave was repelled. Now it was time for the cleanup. The door shut with a soft click that sounded louder than it should have. The noise of the ceremony faded instantly, leaving only the sharp scent of polished wood and tension. Ryan stood across from me, hands braced on the edge of the conference table, his reflection trembling in the glass wall behind him. Our parents lingered near the doorway, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. I walked slowly to the head of the table, the chair that, as of 10 minutes ago, officially belonged to me. I didn't sit. I wanted him to feel the imbalance first. "You can't be serious about this," Ryan said finally, his voice tight with disbelief. "You don't just walk in here and take everything I've built." I tilted my head. "Built, Ryan, you didn't build Redwood. You played it. Like a game. Like everything else in your life." He slammed a hand on the table, the sound cracking through the quiet. "You don't know what I've sacrificed for this company." I leaned forward slightly. "You mean the late nights where your assistants did your work while you took the credit, or the deals you pushed through without due diligence? Because you needed the numbers to look good on paper," he blinked. "You're twisting things." "I'm not twisting anything," I said evenly. "I'm straightening them out." Our father stepped in, his voice heavy with authority he no longer held. "Enough, both of you. We'll sort this out privately as a family." I turned to him. "We are sorting it out, Dad. Privately. Right now." My mother's voice trembled. "Clara, this isn't how the family behaves. You're humiliating your brother." "No," I said softly. "He did that himself. I'm just giving him the mirror." Ryan let out a bitter laugh. His voice was raw with emotion. "You think you're better than me now? Because you've got money. Because you pulled some legal trick to get control of shares." "It's not a trick," I said. "It's preparation. You might try it sometime." He stepped closer, fury trembling under the surface. "I've worked for this my entire career." "You just swoop in, and I didn't swoop," I interrupted. "I climbed. Quietly. While you were too busy making noise to notice." For a long moment the only sound was the faint hum of the city outside the windows. Then I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. "What's this?" he asked, suspicious. "Documentation," I said. "Proof of how you handled company assets over the past 3 years. The unreported liabilities tied to the Zenith account. The proposal you claimed as your own while Jennifer Torres was on maternity leave. The merger with Helix Systems that conveniently ignored pension obligations." He stared at the folder, color draining from his face. "You've been spying on me." I shook my head. "I've been auditing you." Our father moved toward me, anger rising. "You can't just come in here and start making accusations. Ryan's been loyal to this company since it suited him," I said sharply. "Loyalty without integrity isn't loyalty. It's vanity." He stopped, the words hitting harder than I expected. For a moment, even he didn't seem sure who to defend. Ryan grabbed the folder, flipping through the pages. "You don't understand how business works in the real world. Sometimes you have to cut corners. It's survival." I smiled faintly. "Funny. That's what I did too. Only I did it by working harder, not hiding things." He looked up, eyes blazing. "You think this makes you powerful? It makes you naive. You don't have what it takes to run this place. These people will eat you alive." "Then I'll let them choke," I said. He froze. The words hung in the air, heavier than I'd intended. "Miranda and I have already informed the board," I continued. "Your position as senior vice president ends now. Starting tomorrow, you'll report to me for reassignment." He laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. "You're kidding." "I don't joke about business," I said. "You'll relocate to our Minneapolis branch. Regional sales manager. Effective immediately." My mother gasped. "Clara, that's merciful," I interrupted. "He keeps his salary, his benefits, his pride. The only thing he loses is access to the power he abused." Ryan's voice cracked. "You can't do this." "I already did," I said quietly. "Your flight's booked for tomorrow morning. First class, of course. I'm not heartless." He turned to our father. "Say something." But my father's eyes were fixed on me, a strange mixture of disbelief and something else, respect maybe, or regret. "She's right," he said finally. Ryan's mouth fell open. "What, I've watched you cut corners for years," my father said. I thought it was ambition. Maybe it's just arrogance. The room went still. My mother's voice broke the silence. You're turning on your own son. No, he said softly. I'm just seeing him clearly for the first time. Ryan looked between us, fury collapsing into exhaustion. You've lost your mind, he said to me. All of you. He gathered the folder, the papers trembling in his hands. You'll regret this, Clara. You think you've won, but you've just made yourself the enemy of everyone in this building. I met his stare. Then at least I'll know who they are. He turned sharply and stormed out the door, slamming hard enough to rattle the glass. The echo lingered long after he was gone. My parents stood by the window silent. My mother was pale, her hand gripping my father's arm. I could feel their disappointment, their confusion, but beneath it something shifted. Finally I spoke. You should go home. It's been a long night. My mother hesitated. Clara, what happens now? I looked out at the city lights reflecting on the window. Now, I said softly, now the real work begins. They left quietly, their footsteps fading down the hall. When the door closed again, I sank into the chair at the head of the table. The leather creaked beneath me, grounding final. I ran my hand over the polished surface, tracing the faint grain of the wood. This was it, the moment I'd imagined 100 times but never truly understood. Power didn't feel like victory. It felt like weight. Outside, the skyline glowed against the night. Somewhere out there, Ryan was already plotting his next move. I didn't doubt it. But neither did I fear it. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting. I was leading. The following weeks passed in a blur of long meetings, relentless emails and headlines that couldn't decide whether to call me a genius or a traitor, the silent investor. Who Took Over Redwood blared one article. Another called me the woman who outsmarted the board. None of them knew the truth that there was nothing glamorous about power. It didn't sparkle. It was draining. Every morning I arrived before dawn, the building still half asleep, its window panes reflecting the first gray light of day. I'd walk the empty halls and wonder how many of these people secretly resented me, how many were waiting for me to fail. Leadership wasn't applause. It was isolation. Miranda kept her word. She guided me through every legal transfer, every negotiation, every restructuring detail that would have taken months without her. Yet even she couldn't shield me from the pressure that came with owning what I had taken. Redwood was mine, yes, but it was also bleeding. Our financial reports were grim. Years of mismanagement and hidden losses under Ryan's division had left cracks beneath the surface. The kind of cracks that could swallow an empire whole if ignored. I stared at the spreadsheets late into the night one evening, the glow of the monitor painting pale lines across my face. Numbers blurred into each other. My mirror image in the glass wall behind me looked older than I remembered. Miranda entered quietly, 2 mugs in hand. You're still here. I have to be, I replied. She set a cup beside me. You need rest, Clara. You can't rebuild a company on caffeine and adrenaline. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. It's strange, isn't it? You fight so hard to be seen, to be respected, and when you finally are, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like standing on a cliff and realizing there's no railing. Miranda studied me for a moment. That's because real power isn't about being seen. It's about being responsible. The words settled between us like a stone. I looked down at the numbers again. These people depend on me. Hundreds of them. Some of them probably hate me. But I can't let them down. Then don't, she said simply. Fix what your brother broke. Prove that Redwood isn't built on ego, it's built on purpose. When she left, I stared at the city outside the office towers, glittering like constellations. For years, Ryan had lived for that reflection, the illusion of success. I had lived in his shadow. Now the light was mine, and for the first time I realized the heat of it could burn. The next morning I faced the board. They were a circle of polished composure, their expressions neutral but sharp. The agenda was clear: evaluate performance, justify leadership, stabilize panic. One of the older directors, Mr. Carlyle, cleared his throat. Ms. Hayes, your acquisition has certainly disrupted expectations. But investors are nervous. They want assurance that you can handle the fallout. I met his gaze. I didn't come here to steady the status quo. I came to rebuild it. Another board member, a woman named Ava Grant, arched an eyebrow. Rebuild it with what good intentions? No, I said evenly. With results. I clicked the remote, and the screen behind me filled with charts and projections, cost reductions, tech reinvestments, performance-based restructuring. The room leaned forward as I spoke, not because of my confidence, but because of my conviction. Ryan's leadership prioritized perception over performance, I said. That ends now. From today forward, every division will operate under transparency and accountability. Bonuses will reflect innovation, not politics. We'll cut waste-reward creativity and build a culture where no one hides behind their title. The silence that followed wasn't skeptical. It was cautious respect. Mr. Carlyle nodded slowly. You sound like you've done your homework. I've been doing it for years, I said. When the meeting ended, I stepped into the hallway and exhaled for the first time that day. The company wasn't saved, not yet, but the tide had shifted. Still, not everything could be rebuilt with strategy. Late one night, my phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. It was from Ryan. You think this is over? It's not. You'll destroy yourself trying to fix what you broke. I stared at the words for a long moment, then deleted them without replying. But they stayed in my head long after the screen went dark. The truth was, he wasn't entirely wrong. Power was addictive and costly. Every decision felt like a transaction with fate. Every mistake could be fatal. A week later, I received a message from Human Resources about layoffs in Ryan's former department. It wasn't sabotage. It was necessity. But the names on the list, people I'd known for years, cut deeper than I expected. I walked through the office that evening after the staff had gone home past empty desks and dark monitors. The silence was heavy. This was what leadership looked like up close, not applause, not triumph, but consequence. When I reached Ryan's old corner office, I stopped. The blinds were half closed, casting striped shadows across the desk. His nameplate still sat there, polished but meaningless. I picked it up, turning it in my hands. The weight of it was small, almost laughable compared to what it symbolized. I placed it in a drawer. The next morning, Miranda called from her office. You're being too hard on yourself. I'm being realistic, I said. You're letting guilt make your choices. Maybe guilt is what keeps me human, I replied. She sighed. Just don't let it stop you. You took this company back from the edge. Don't let self-doubt push it over again. Her words echoed long after the call ended. I looked around my office at the stacks of reports, the sleepless weeks that had aged me more than I cared to admit. Power had a cost, and I was paying it in silence. That night I stayed long after everyone left. Outside, the storm that had been threatening all day finally broke, rain streaking the glass like streaks of tired ink. I stood by the window. My reflection was faint against the lightning. You wanted this, I whispered to myself. Now own it. The words steadied me. Power wasn't about being unshakable. It was about standing firm even when everything else trembled. And as thunder rolled through the night, I realized I hadn't reached the summit. I was still climbing. It began quietly, the way all storms do. One Monday morning, I found a single envelope on my desk, no return address, no name, just the company seal pressed into the flap. Inside was a memo from the internal compliance team, irregularities found in past merger documentation, requesting full review. I didn't need to read the rest to know what it meant. Ryan's ghosts were resurfacing. By noon, I was in the glass-walled conference room with Miranda, 2 auditors, and a stack of files taller than my arm. The team leader, a thin man with a sharp voice named Blake, spoke first. We've uncovered discrepancies in the Stevens and Harrison accounts. Falsified reports, manipulated timelines, even missing signatures. He looked up at me. It dates back to before your ownership, but as current CEO, you're liable to disclose and correct it. The The words landed like a weight across my chest. Liable. The price of inheritance. Miranda's tone was calm, almost surgical. Then we fix it. Full transparency. Nothing hidden. Nothing delayed. I nodded though my hands had gone cold. Pull every file. I want every number verified. Every transaction is traced. For the next several weeks, the company became a battlefield of spreadsheets and silence. Employees worked in hushed tones, eyes flicking nervously whenever an auditor passed by. Rumors spread fast that the new CEO had uncovered corporate fraud, that the company was under investigation, that Redwood might collapse. In the middle of it all, I barely slept. I was in the office before dawn, combing through old deals, signing off on reports that read like crime scenes. The more I dug, the more I saw the damage Ryan had done, not just to numbers, but to people. Promotions denied, contracts, altered bonuses stolen. He had left a trail of ambition scorched behind him. One night around 2 a.m., I found an old email thread buried in the archives. Ryan's name was on every line. He'd covered losses in a failed acquisition by transferring funds from employee retirement accounts temporarily. He'd written just until the quarter closes. He hadn't just been reckless. He'd been dangerous. Miranda walked in without knocking, her heels soft against the carpet. "You're still here." "So are you?" I said, echoing her old line. She glanced at the screen. "You found something." "Proof," I said quietly. "He didn't just bend the rules, he broke them." Her expression darkened. "Then it's time we tell the board." The next morning I stood before the directors again, every eye trained on me. I projected the documents on the screen: emails, invoices, falsified reports. The truth filled the room like static. "Ryan Hayes," I said, my voice steady, "authorized these transfers, concealed them, and falsified records to protect his own performance metrics. These are federal offenses." The silence was immediate and absolute. Then Mr. Carlyle leaned forward. "Are you suggesting criminal referral?" "I'm not suggesting," I said. "I'm insisting." Somewhere deep inside, the little sister in me hesitated. The one who used to trail behind Ryan in the yard, who once thought his approval was the same as love. But that girl had been left behind long ago. The board voted unanimously. Legal counsel was notified. The company issued an internal statement that afternoon citing ethical breaches under previous leadership. The press, of course, turned it into a wildfire. By evening, the Wall Street Ledger ran the headline, "Redwood CEO exposes internal corruption. Former executive under federal review." I turned off every screen in my office and sat in the dark. The city outside was alive with light, but I felt none of it. This was a victory technically, but it didn't feel like one. The phone rang just after 9. The sound itself was rough and demanding, like a remnant of the storm I'd just cleared. I answered. Clara Ryan's voice came through the line, rough and unsteady. "What have you done? What needed to be done? You could have come to me first. You didn't have to destroy me." "I didn't destroy you," I said. "You did that when you started lying." Silence. Then a low, bitter laugh. "You always thought you were better than me." "No," I said quietly. "I just refused to be like you." He hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time afterward, feeling both the sting of finality and the hollow echo of relief. 2 days later, the auditors completed their report. Redwood had survived. Barely. The financial damage was reparable, the trust harder to rebuild, but the rot was gone. When I walked through the office that Friday, the air felt different, cleaner, somehow lighter. Employees met my eyes when they passed. Some even smiled. Respect born not from wealth but from conviction. Miranda met me by the elevator. "You know," she said, "most people in your position would have buried those files." "I didn't fight this long to become another version of him," I replied. She smiled faintly. "Then maybe Redwood finally has a chance." That night I took the long way home. The rain had cleared, leaving the streets washed and gleaming under the streetlights. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace. Not the fragile kind that shatters with one wrong step, but the quiet assurance of having faced the worst and still standing. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. One unread email waited at the top of my inbox. The subject line read, "Thank you." It was from Jennifer Torres, the woman Ryan had stolen credit from. She wrote, "You don't know what this means to the people who've worked here for years." For the first time, someone did the right thing. Not because it was safe, because it was right. I sat there for a long time rereading her words. They felt heavier than any headline, more valuable than any award. In the end, the audit hadn't just uncovered what Ryan had done. It revealed what I was capable of. Not vengeance, not triumph, integrity. And for the first time, I realized that was the real foundation of power. It arrived on a Tuesday morning in an envelope so ordinary, it almost disappeared beneath the pile of contracts and quarterly reports on my desk. No company logo, no sender name, just my own written address, typed cleanly, sealed with care. I might have ignored it entirely if not for the faint indentation of handwriting pressed into the paper, as though someone had written over it once and erased the words. I slid it open with the edge of my pen and unfolded a single sheet of stationery. The handwriting stopped me cold. It was from Ryan, Clara. By the time you read this, the board will have already made their decision. I won't fight it. There's no point. You won. But I need you to understand something. I didn't start out trying to deceive anyone. I just wanted to prove I could do something without being compared to you. Somewhere along the way, it became about survival. You were always the smart one, the careful one. I was just trying to keep up. The letter went on for pages, part confession, part justification, part plea. He admitted to falsifying reports, to borrowing money he never planned to repay, to manipulating employees to make his numbers look better. But there were moments between the lines that felt like glimpses of the boy he used to be. The one who taught me how to ride a bike, who stayed up late helping me memorize state capitals before our father tested us at breakfast. I know I hurt people. I know I disappointed you. But what hurts most is realizing I became exactly the person I used to hate, someone who measures worth by applause. I'm sorry, Clara. For what it's worth, I'm glad one of us turned out stronger. I read the letter twice before setting it down. For a long moment, I just stared at it, unable to decide if I felt vindicated or hollow. Miranda found me still at my desk an hour later. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said softly. "Maybe I have." She glanced at the letter. "He wrote to you, yes." I hesitated. "He's not fighting the charges. He's taking a plea deal." Miranda folded her arms, her gaze steady. "You did the right thing." "Did I asked quietly. "Because it doesn't feel like it." She tilted her head. "Justice never feels good. It's not meant to." After she left, I opened my drawer and pulled out another letter, the one from my grandfather, written years before he died. It was short, barely half a page, but I'd kept it with me since college. "Never let success make you cruel," he had written. "And never let failure make you small." I ran my fingers over the ink until the words blurred. That afternoon, I asked my assistant to postpone my meetings. I needed air. The city outside was bright and windless, the kind of autumn day that carried both chill and clarity. I walked to the park 3 blocks from Redwood's headquarters, where children chased pigeons and vendors sold roasted chestnuts from metal carts. I sat on a bench beneath the changing trees and reread Ryan's letter. When we were kids, Ryan used to tell me the world rewarded confidence, not goodness. Maybe that was where it all began, the belief that kindness was weakness. That's what I'd spent my whole adult life trying to unlearn. My phone vibrated. It was a text from our mother. "Your father and I heard about Ryan's plea. Can we come by tonight?" I hesitated, then typed back, "Yes, 7 p.m. By evening, the house was quiet, except for the low hum of the fireplace. My parents sat across from me in the living room. My mother's face was drawn, her voice subdued. "We visited him this morning," she said. "He's not well. He asked about you." "What did he say?" "That he doesn't blame you." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. My father cleared his throat. "You did what had to be done. It's just hard to watch your children turn against each other." "We didn't turn against each other," I said softly. We just stopped pretending we were on the same side. Silence settled between us, heavy but not hostile. My mother reached into her purse and took out a folded piece of paper. He asked me to give you this. It was another letter, shorter this time. The handwriting was shakier. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll remember me more than my mistakes. My hands trembled slightly as I set it down. I don't hate him, I said finally. I just can't fix him. You don't have to, my father said quietly. That's not your job. After they left, I stood at the window for a long time watching the city lights flicker below. Somewhere out there, Ryan was beginning the process of rebuilding his life, or what was left of it. I wasn't sure if I'd ever see him again. The next morning, I framed the letter a simple black frame and placed it on the shelf beside my grandfather's note. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. When Jennifer Torres stopped by later that afternoon, she noticed it immediately. Is that from him? Yes, I said. Why keep it? Because every success story has its ghosts, I replied. And I don't want to forget mine. She nodded, understanding more than most would. After she left, I sat back. I took a breath and whispered the truth I hadn't said aloud until now. Revenge fades. Responsibility doesn't. The words settled into the room like an oath. Outside, the first snowflakes began to fall. I watched them until the streets blurred white. For the first time in years, I let myself hope that maybe Ryan would find peace too. 3 months after the audit closed, the building no longer felt like it was holding its breath. The chaos had quieted. Redwood Technologies finally stood on something solid truth. Phase 1 had been about reclaiming control. Phase 2 was about transformation. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the sunrise burn through the morning haze over Manhattan. The light split the skyline into gold and steel. The towers looked conquerable. Miranda entered without knocking. You're already up, she said. I don't sleep much anymore. You'll need to start, she replied. Because Phase 2 begins today. I turned toward her. Show me. She flipped open the file, revealing charts, company names, and projections. Our competitors have grown complacent. We can move faster now. I've identified 3 firms that are vulnerable: Axiom Labs, Neuron Edge, and Titan Biotech. Each one holds patents that could double Redwood's market share. I studied the documents. Every acquisition would redefine what Redwood represented: a company built on precision and integrity, not legacy and ego. Do it, I said finally. Miranda smiled faintly. I thought you'd say that. When she left, I sat down. I opened a blank page on my laptop. Phase 2. Build what never existed: a company that outlives its founders. By the end of the week, the first acquisition talks had begun. I met with Axiom's founder, Daniel Rice. His face carried the exhaustion of someone who'd been fighting too long. You want to buy us, he said bluntly. I want a partner, I corrected. You built something innovative. I want to scale it. Everyone says that before they gut the company. Then let me prove I'm not everyone. He studied me for a long moment. What's it like carrying that name? I met his gaze. Heavy. But I've learned to use the weight. We signed a preliminary agreement that night. 1 down, 2 to go. But success never comes without friction. Rumors began to circulate again, whispers that I was ruthless. Investors called politely, expressing concern. Employees watched me with wary respect. Miranda pulled me aside one afternoon. You're scaring them, she said. Good, I replied. Fear keeps people honest. Not for long, she warned. Eventually, it just keeps them quiet. Her words stuck with me. Redwood felt efficient now, but lifeless. Somewhere in all my precision, I'd forgotten warmth. At home, I opened an email from Jennifer Torres. Clara, the digital transformation is working. But morale is low. People are afraid of making mistakes. I closed my eyes. Maybe Miranda was right. Fear had gotten me here, but it couldn't take me further. The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting. The staff gathered. I stepped onto the stage. When I took this position, I began, Redwood was broken. Not by bad business, but by arrogance. We've spent months cleaning that up, and you've done it with grace." A few heads lifted. But somewhere along the way, I forgot something. That progress isn't built on fear. It's built on trust. I don't expect perfection. I expect honesty. I don't want a company that obeys me. I want one that believes in what we're building together. Silence filled the room, full and real. Jennifer's hand went up. "So what's next?" I smiled. "Phase 2. Expansion, innovation, and accountability. But this time, it won't just be my vision. It'll be ours." The applause started small but grew. For the first time since I'd taken the role, I felt a connection. Later, Miranda found me. "You handled that well." "I wasn't handling it," I said. "I was admitting I can't do this alone." She nodded. "That's the difference between power and leadership." That night, I opened my window. The city below gleamed like circuitry. Phase 2 wasn't just about Redwood. It was about me learning how to lead without vengeance, to replace control with vision. Around midnight, I called Miranda. "I want to set up a new division," I said. "Nonprofit? A mentorship program for women in tech. Call it the Hayes Initiative." "You're sure?" "Yes," I said. "It's time we built something that doesn't belong to the past." "Then consider Phase 2 officially in motion," she replied. I turned back to the window. I wasn't chasing justice or approval. I was building a legacy. The letter arrived on a Wednesday morning, hand-delivered by courier. The envelope was embossed with gold lettering, Harrison and Lyle, Corporate Law, Chicago. It was about Ryan. I stared at it for a long moment before breaking the seal. To Ms. Clara Hayes. Our client, Mr. Ryan Hayes, has requested mediation regarding the ownership of certain family-held assets. He wishes to meet to discuss settlement terms privately before proceeding with formal litigation. 2 days from now. Miranda entered. "You look like someone just handed you a grenade." "Ryan wants a meeting," I said. "After everything, he's not stupid," I replied. "He knows the court would destroy him. Maybe negotiation is the only thing he has left." Miranda studied my face. "Will you go?" "Yes." Alone, I nodded. It started with us. It should end with us. The flight to Chicago was gray and quiet. I spent most of it staring out the window. I'd imagined 100 ways my story with Ryan might end, but never this, a legal handshake over what was left of a family. When I arrived, the law office was sterile. Ryan was already there, sitting at the end of the conference table. He looked smaller. His eyes were shadowed with exhaustion. He didn't stand when I entered. "You came." I said I would. "Sit. I promise I'm not here to fight." "That would be a first," I said. The lawyer, a man whose perfectly symmetrical, unreadable face betrayed no emotion, began outlining the terms. Ryan was requesting partial reinstatement of shares in the family trust and a structured buyout to cover debts. It was calculated. Ryan knew how to make desperation look dignified. When the lawyer left, silence filled the space between us. Ryan was the first to break it. "I didn't write that letter to you asking for money," he said quietly. "I wrote it because I wanted you to know I wasn't proud." "I know," I said. "That's why I didn't tear it up." He leaned back. "You always had this ability to make me feel like a kid again. Like I'd just broken something." "That's because you always break something," I replied. He smiled faintly. "You were always the fixer." "I didn't fix anything," I said. "I just stopped pretending the cracks weren't there." He exhaled. "You ever think maybe we both wanted the same thing? We just took different roads." Maybe, I admitted. But only one of us kept looking for shortcuts. He nodded. "You were right to do what you did. I would have done the same if I'd had your courage. It wasn't courage, Ryan. It was a necessity. You backed me into a corner and I fought my way out." He looked down at the table. "I didn't mean for it to get that bad. I just didn't know how to stop." The lawyer returned, sliding the agreement across the table. The offer was fair. Ryan would forfeit all future claims to Redwood. It would give him a chance to start over. "Before you sign," he said, "there's something else." He pulled out an envelope. "This isn't part of the deal. It's for Mom and Dad. I can't face them yet, but maybe they'll listen to you. I took it slowly. "What's in it?" "Apology," he said. "An explanation. Maybe too late for both." I saw something in his eyes that wasn't pride or resentment. It was recognition. I signed my name. He did the same. Ryan stood. "So that's it then. That's it." He hesitated, then extended his hand. His grip was weak but steady. "I hope you're happy," he said quietly. "I'm not sure happiness was ever the point," I replied. "Then what was peace?" He nodded once, then left the room. I sat there for a while. I'd imagined this moment as closure, but it felt like space and opening. That night I stayed in a small hotel overlooking Lake Michigan. The wind off the water was sharp. For the first time in a long while I felt oddly free. My phone vibrated. A message from Miranda. "Deal finalized. Press release scheduled for morning. Proud of you." I typed back, "Thank you. Phase 2 complete." Her reply came almost immediately. "Then what's next?" I answered. "Phase 3. Something for us." The next morning I caught an early flight back to New York. As the plane descended, I looked out over the skyline. Power had taken everything from me once, but it had also given me clarity. And with that clarity came a choice: to stop surviving, to start building. The glass elevator rose smoothly through the newly renovated Redwood Tower. 2 years had passed. The company was unrecognizable. So was I. I caught my reflection in the mirrored wall. The lines around my eyes were sharper, yes, but there was calm there too. A steadiness that came only from surviving the storm. When the elevator doors opened, the sound of applause filled the corridor. The new Redwood headquarters buzzed with energy. Everyone was gathered for the launch of the Hayes Initiative, the mentorship and innovation fund we had built from Redwood's profits. It was the heart of Phase 3. Miranda stood at the podium. When Clara Hayes first took over this company, we thought she was trying to rebuild Redwood. We were wrong. She was redefining it. Applause rose again, warm and genuine. Miranda gestured toward me. "Please welcome the woman who reminded us all that integrity can be revolutionary, Ms. Clara Hayes." I stepped up to the podium. I smiled. Not the rehearsed smile of an executive, but the quiet, grounded kind. 2 years ago, I began this company stood on the edge of collapse. We forgot what success really means. We thought it was about winning, about power, about being right. I paused. But power without purpose is hollow. Winning without meaning is temporary. Redwood survived because we learned that the only legacy worth building is one that outlasts us. And that's what today is about. Behind me, the screen lit up with the new logo of the Hayes Initiative, empowering the next generation of innovators. "This initiative isn't mine," I continued. "It belongs to everyone who ever felt unseen. It belongs to those who were told to stay in the back and chose instead to build something from the shadows. Because that's where true vision begins." The applause that followed was different. Steady, emotional, real. When I stepped down, Miranda met me. "You sound like a woman ready to rest." "Not rest," I said. "Redirect. Where to? Wherever I'm needed next." Later that evening, I found myself in my office one last time. On my desk sat 2 framed letters, the one from Ryan and my grandfather's note. I ran my fingers along the edges. Miranda stepped in holding 2 glasses of champagne. "To the end of an era," she said. "To the beginning of one," I corrected. She smiled. "You know, when I first met you, you were all sharp edges and fire. Now you're something else." "Still sharp," I said. "Just quieter." After she left, I turned back to my desk and opened my laptop. A new message notification blinked. It was from Ryan. Subject: good news. "Clara, the program's working, the counseling, the business ethics training, you were right. I've started consulting for a small tech firm here in Minneapolis. It's nothing like Redwood, but it's honest work. For what it's worth, thank you for making me face what I'd become. I hope we can talk soon. Not as rivals, as a family." I stared at the words. "I'm proud of you, Ryan. Keep going. There's more to build than we ever realized." When I hit send, a strange calm washed over me. This was forgiveness, quiet acceptance. I noticed something new taped to the edge of the monitor, a handwritten note from Jennifer. "Thank you for teaching us that leadership isn't about control. It's about courage." I smiled. I understood what legacy really meant. It wasn't about what people remembered you for. It was about what they could build after you were gone. I took one last look around. The reflection in the window showed the woman who had finally stepped into her own. The elevator ride down was quiet. When the doors opened into the lobby, a young intern smiled shyly. "Ms. Hayes," she said, "thank you for giving people like us a chance." I smiled back. "You don't need a chance," I said. "You just need a place to start." As I stepped out into the cool night, the wind carried the scent of renewal. The city was alive around me, the future wide open ahead. The company was no longer my revenge. It was my legacy. And that I realized was more powerful than any victory I had ever planned.